Crack isn't just back, it owns the streets, trapping thousands in cycles of addiction and homelessness that no one seems able to escape. Families are being torn apart, communities are collapsing, and the numbers in 2025 are worse than ever. But the real question is, why can't they break free? And what if the system is designed to keep it that way? The sound of sirens cuts through the night, echoing off crumbling buildings where people sleep under broken streetlights. On sidewalks in the heart of the city, you can see the outlines of bodies curled under thin blankets, their breaths fogging in the cold air. In 2025, reports show that more than 1.1 million people in America live without a home, and crack use has spiked in nearly every major city. The numbers are worse than at any point in the last 20 years, and behind every number there is a face. A mother in her 50s who once worked as a nurse, now sitting on a milk crate with a pipe in her hand. A teenager no older than 16, staring blankly at the street corner, waiting for the next hit to numb the hunger in his stomach. Doctors say overdose deaths linked to crack and other hard drugs are rising by almost 15% year after year. But the reality feels heavier than statistics when you walk down these blocks. On one corner, an older man named David shares his story. His voice is rough, his eyes darting around as if expecting trouble. He says he came to the city looking for work, but after he lost his job in 2020, he turned to crack just to quiet the stress. It starts small, he explains, tapping the burnt end of a glass pipe, but then it owns you. You don't own it. His words cut through the air like a warning. Down the street, another woman named Carla shakes her head when asked how she ended up here. I had kids once, she whispers, her voice trembling, but the drugs took everything. Now I don't even know if they'd recognize me. Their pain reveals what the numbers cannot. National surveys say Black and Latino communities are hit the hardest, especially in urban centers where poverty and lack of housing meet the steady flow of crack on the streets. In this city, the shelters are packed every night, leaving hundreds outside. Police reports show crack is often cheaper than a single meal from a fast food chain, making it easier to buy than bread or milk. This is why it spreads so fast. It is not just a drug, it is a trap that offers quick relief but steals years in return. Local hospitals report that nearly half of ER visits in this area are tied to drug use, and staff admit they are stretched thin, unable to help everyone who walks through the doors. As the night deepens, the sounds of coughing, crying, and muffled arguments rise up from the alleys, painting a picture more powerful than any chart or study. The crisis is here, and it is worse than most people dare to imagine. The problem is not only the drug itself, but also the web of connections that keeps people trapped inside it. On these streets, crack is not just a substance, it is part of the air people breathe. Dealers stand on corners like shadows, passing small bags for crumpled bills, and no one is shocked anymore. Children walking to school step past people smoking in doorways, their young eyes growing used to the sight of despair. In some neighborhoods, this has become normal, woven into the rhythm of daily life like traffic or church bells. The environment plays its part too. Rows of abandoned houses sit with broken windows and open doors, giving people places to hide and use. Parks that once held family cookouts are now dotted with burned foil and empty lighters. For many here, the roots go deeper than the streets themselves. Low wages mean families cannot pay rent, and the lack of affordable housing pushes them out. The stigma around addiction keeps them from asking for help, and when they do, the waiting lists for treatment stretch for months. A man named Jorge describes trying to check into a rehab center only to be told the next available bed was 3 months away. 3 months, he laughs bitterly. I can't go 3 days without it. His story is not rare. Local outreach workers confirm that many die while waiting for help that never comes in time. Economic hardship, the weight of stigma, and the absence of accessible care all combine to create a perfect storm. The web is also held together by coping mechanisms that grow into chains. People say the drug is the only thing that keeps the cold away at night, the only way to silence the buzzing thoughts of failure, hunger, and shame. In neighborhoods marked by unemployment and boarded-up shops, crack becomes both escape and punishment. It is a fire that burns while promising warmth. Each person caught in it carries a different story, but together they reveal the same truth. In this city, the streets are not just places to walk, they are traps, waiting for the next person to fall in. And the deeper question remains, why is it easier to buy crack here than to find a safe place to sleep? The web of connections is not easy to see at first, but it is everywhere in the streets where crack holds power. It shows in the worn faces of the people waiting for food at the church line, in the broken windows of empty buildings, in the way sirens echo through the night like a rhythm the city cannot escape. Crack is not just a drug here, it is part of the air, tied to every corner and every choice people make. The way it spreads is not random. It grows where jobs are gone, where rent is high, and where hope has been stripped away. People do not wake up wanting to live under bridges or in shelters that close at sunrise. They are pushed there step by forces that feel bigger than any single person. On one block, an old factory stands silent, its windows boarded up, its gates locked with rusted chains. This was once the heartbeat of the neighborhood, where hundreds worked long hours and brought home steady pay. Now it is nothing but an empty shell. With its closing, families lost their homes, children dropped out of school to help, and many adults turned to quick escapes when the weight of bills became too much. Crack dealers filled the void, moving into the same streets where paychecks once flowed. In places where money and stability once lived, the drug found an open door. This pattern is not by accident. It is the same in many cities where factories closed and work left, but despair stayed behind. Environmental factors make it worse. The abandoned houses left behind by families who moved or were forced out are now hiding spots where people smoke away the night. Overgrown lots once used for community gatherings are now places where deals happen in plain view. Children walk past these sites on their way to school, their small steps weaving through needles and burnt foil. Some cover their faces with their sleeves to block out the sharp chemical smell, but others do not even flinch. For them, this is the world they have always known. What should be shocking becomes normal, and what should be normal, safety, peace, a stable home, becomes a dream. The danger grows not only because of the drug, but also because of how it is seen. Many people here do not ask for help because of shame. They are afraid of being judged or thrown aside. They hear words like junkie or failure whispered about them, and it presses them deeper into the cycle. A young woman named Alicia tells her story softly, almost in a whisper. She says she tried to get help but was told she was too far gone. Those words crushed her, and she went back to the only thing that gave her quick comfort. Her story shows how stigma is more than a word. It can be a weapon that pushes people back into the dark instead of pulling them out. Even when people are ready to fight, the system around them is not built to catch them when they fall. In this city, treatment centers often have months-long waiting lists. Shelters fill up before the sun sets. Food programs turn people away once the supplies run dry. Jorge, the man who once worked construction, says he called every number he could find for help. Some never answered. Others told him there was no space. By the time a bed opened, he was already lost again in the grip of the drug. For many, survival comes down to what is easier to reach in the moment, a warm pipe or a locked door. The deeper pull comes from how crack has become woven into the coping systems of daily life. For some, it is the only way to keep the cold out on freezing nights. For others, it is the only thing that quiets the voices of regret and pain when they close their eyes. A man named Thomas says, "It makes you forget the hunger." He looks down as he speaks, ashamed. For him, crack is not about chasing a high. It is about silencing the ache of an empty stomach when the food bank lines are too long. Stories like his reveal that crack is not always about thrill, it is about survival, even if that survival is fleeting. All these threads, lost jobs, empty homes, failing systems, and silent shame, connect to form the net that traps people here. It is not one single problem, but many problems layered on top of each other, each making the other worse. And once caught, breaking free feels almost impossible. The web does not just hold the people already inside it. It waits quietly for the next person who stumbles, ready to pull them in. What becomes clear is that in this place, the streets do not simply host the problem, they feed it, making crack not just a drug but a way of life that feels nearly impossible to escape. The cycle begins slowly, but once it takes hold, it becomes a loop that is hard to break. A person smokes to forget pain, but the smoke steals their money, their health, and their trust in themselves. Without money, they lose their home, and without a home, they are pushed into the streets where the drug is everywhere. The streets bring more stress, more danger, and more reasons to reach for another hit. It is not a straight line but a circle, spinning faster each time someone tries to escape. You can see this cycle in the faces of the people on the corners, their eyes tired and their hands shaking. They are caught in a storm that feeds itself. One man named Terrence tells how he got caught in the loop. He had a steady job sweeping floors at a local grocery store, but he hurt his back and could no longer work. Without income, he lost his apartment in just 2 months. Living on the street made his pain worse, and a friend gave him crack to numb it. At first it seemed like relief, but soon it became the only thing he thought about. He tried to quit, but every time he stopped, the street itself pulled him back. Dealers were always close. Friends who still used told him to join them, and the noise and danger around him made it impossible to stay clean. "You can't heal in a place that keeps hurting you," he says, shaking his head. His words show how the cycle is not just about the drug, but about the world around it. The failures of the system also keep the wheel turning. Police sweep through the streets, arresting people for possession, but those same people are often released without treatment or help. In a matter of days, they return to the same block, to the same corner, with the same pipe in their hand. Jail does not fix the hunger or the need for shelter. It only leaves people with criminal records that make it harder to find work later. What was supposed to be a solution becomes another lock on the cage. Shelters, too, sometimes make things worse. They are crowded, unsafe, and only open for a few hours each night. Many say they would rather take their chances outside than risk being robbed or beaten while they sleep inside. Without safe housing, the streets become the only option, and the streets are where the cycle begins again. Health also becomes part of the trap. Smoking crack damages the body quickly. People lose weight until their clothes hang off their bones. Their teeth break and fall out. Their skin becomes pale and bruised. Their hearts weaken. Doctors see the same people again and again in emergency rooms, patched up for a day but never treated for the root cause. A nurse at the county hospital explains that some patients return 10 or 12 times in a single month. They are treated for infections, burns, or chest pain, but then sent back out with no plan for real recovery. Each visit is like putting a bandage on a wound that will not stop bleeding. The hospital becomes another stop in the circle, not an exit from it. The cycle also eats into families. Parents who smoke lose the trust of their children, and children who watch grow up with the drug as part of their world. A boy named Marcus, only 13, explains that his mother has been using since he was little. He says he tried to stay in school, but the teasing and the shame pushed him out. Now he sells snacks on the bus to make money. But he admits he is tempted to use the same drug he has seen all his life. It feels normal, he shrugs. His words reveal the most painful truth. The cycle does not stop with one person, but stretches into the next generation. Everywhere you look, the pattern repeats. People lose homes, find crack, sink deeper, face stigma, and are pushed away from help. The policies meant to protect them often push them further down. The shelters meant to give them rest often scare them away. The hospitals meant to heal them only send them back out broken. And with each turn of the wheel, the hope of breaking free grows smaller. This is the vicious cycle, a storm that grows stronger the longer it spins, feeding itself on the weakness of systems and the silence of those who do not want to see. And the question that hangs in the air is clear. If the very solutions in place are part of the problem, then how can the circle ever be broken? But even in the middle of the storm, there are sparks of light that show the cycle can be broken. In this city, a small program run out of a church basement offers more than just a meal. Volunteers serve hot food, but they also hand out clean clothes, connect people with doctors, and most of all, speak to them with respect. A woman named Carla, who once lived under a bridge, says this was the first place where she felt seen as a person, not just as another addict. She explains that the kindness she found there gave her enough strength to walk into a treatment center and try again. Stories like hers prove that change is possible when people are treated with dignity and given real choices. Across town, a mobile van painted bright blue drives through the streets every morning. It is called Hope on Wheels, and it carries nurses, social workers, and counselors who step out to meet people right where they are. They do not wait for someone to show up at an office. Instead, they hand out clean needles, offer medical checkups, and talk to people about recovery programs. They write down names, numbers, and stories, promising to return the next day. And they do. Over time, trust grows, and some people take the first step toward treatment. The staff say they know not everyone will change right away, but planting a seed of trust today may grow into hope tomorrow. Other cities across the nation show models that work too. In Houston, large investments in permanent housing have cut homelessness by more than half in just 10 years. In Vermont, safe recovery centers give people a bed, counseling, and steady care without forcing them back into the street after a single night. These programs remind us that solutions do not need to be dreams. They already exist, and they can be copied, reshaped, and built to fit the needs of this city. The key is not a quick fix, but a full plan that brings housing, treatment, and care together. One without the other only leads back to the same cycle. Personal reflection shows that the path forward is not just about money or laws, but about seeing people as more than their mistakes. Jorge, the construction worker who once felt trapped, is now in recovery because a mentor stayed by his side through every setback. He explains that what saved him was not just the bed he found in a shelter, but the steady hand of someone who did not give up on him when he relapsed. He says people think we need punishment, but what we really need is patience. His story points to the truth that healing takes time and requires a community willing to walk the long road. As the sun rises over streets still marked by shadows, the forward-looking message becomes clear. Breaking the cycle means building systems that do not push people out but pull them in, wrapping them in care and giving them more than one chance. It means housing that lasts, treatment that is steady, healthcare that heals, and communities that embrace rather than shame. The path is not simple, but the proof is already around us in programs that work. If we choose to follow those models and shape them to our city, the streets can change. The final call is not for pity, but for action, Because the crisis is complex and heavy, but so is the power of people working together to lift the weight. The question now is not whether it can be done, but whether we have the will to do it.